What you want to say about the baby?
J-time, baby.
In my 37-year career in law enforcement, I have never, ever heard of anything so horrific.
Follow the tragic news out of Aiken County. We now know human remains found in Fairfield County have been identified as 4-year-old Javeayah Harris.
How does a mother report her own 4-year-old daughter missing, let 200 people search for her for 4 straight days, and accept prayers from an entire community, while already knowing her daughter had been dead for a month? How does she do all of that, then go into labor that same night, and give birth to another daughter, in the middle of a search she knows will never end the way everyone hopes? And how does no one, not a neighbor, not a relative, not a single person in that house, know the truth until she finally says it out loud herself? Welcome to the Crime Edition. Today, we're covering the case of Javeayah Harris, a 4-year-old girl whose disappearance pulled an entire community together, and whose true story pulled that same community apart. Stay with us till the end. Subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from.
Aiken County 911, where's your emergency?
Ma'am, I'm at 39 Hillsborough Street. I can't find my baby.
39 Hillsborough Street.
Yes, ma'am. She was outside playing, and I came out here after cooking dinner a little bit, and I'm looking for her, but I don't see her nowhere.
All right, how old is this baby?
She's 4.
All right, what was she wearing?
She has on pink Minnie Mouse pajamas, and she had in pink beads. She had braids.
Is she black, white, or Hispanic?
She's mixed.
Okay, how long ago did you see her, ma'am? When was the last time you saw her?
I just came out here like no less than 20 or 30 minutes ago. I went in the house to cook dinner, and I told her it's time to come in once it starts getting dark. And when I came out here, I can't find her.
Just take a breath for me, okay? I already have them on the way to you, okay? Do you know where she might be heading? Okay, you have any family or friends that live around the area?
No, but she usually try to chase our chickens to catch them, and I've been looking through the woods to try to see if I see her, but I don't see her nowhere.
What's your name?
My name is Michilae Harris.
What's her name?
Javeayah Harris.
Harris? I couldn't hear the first name.
Javeayah is spelled Javeayah. And I wasn't out here. I'm 39 weeks pregnant. I can't keep up with her like that.
Okay. And anybody else out there with her? Like that was out there with her? Any friends, kids playing with her?
The way our yard is set up, it's nothing but the dogs and the chickens right here at the back.
All right. Does she have any health issues? Any mental issues? Anything like that?
They suspect that she was autistic, but she's just now turning 4, so they don't have no diagnosis all the way.
Okay.
But she's very smart, though. She don't seem autistic.
Does she talk?
Yeah. She can carry a full conversation.
Okay. You didn't see any vehicles before you went inside or anything like that?
No, but what worries me is these crackheads that walk in his house behind the house. I don't know. I've always felt weird about them, and I don't know. Hello?
I'm still here, ma'am. Give me just a second.
My call might be breaking up because of where we at.
Okay. What's a good callback number for you, ma'am?
Ma'am, I don't have one. My phone is not on, but I can still call 911.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Okay. I have them on the way to you. Just to confirm, where was she in the house when you saw her last?
No, she wasn't in the house, ma'am. She been playing outside today. And she asked me, can she play for a little bit more before it got dark, and I said yes. And I literally, her bath water is in the tub, ran, and dinner is cooking, and I came out here to get her, and I can't even find her.
Okay, is there a certain place she likes to play outside?
usually in the chicken coop, and that's usually where I find her every day. And I just looked in here, and she's not in here.
Okay. Is there any bodies of water nearby?
I don't know, ma'am. Me and my husband just now purchasing this house. I don't know about this area much, but it's not a good area. I'll tell you that. It's not good.
Okay, you say you searched the woods. Is that behind your house?
Yes, it's like a pathway right behind my house. And we usually take the dog sometimes in the woods to just let them run. And she'll come, so I know she knows about the woods. And but I look down the same pathway that we walk, and I do not see her.
Okay, and you said she was wearing pink Minnie Mouse pajamas. Anything else you may be wearing?
Her beads are pink.
Beats are pink?
Yeah, she's got braids. I mean, I don't know if she got on Crocs or with shoes, because she just puts on play shoes, but I don't, ma'am, it's not no way that she could have got far.
All right. Do you have any neighbors around the area that you're familiar with she might be going to?
No, we don't talk to none of these people. None of these people, because they all mostly do drugs. I don't associate myself with that.
Have you checked with neighbors to see if they have seen her?
No, ma'am. I'm literally, I called you 10 minutes after I stepped outside. The cops are pulling up right now.
All right, go ahead and talk to them, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, no problem.
Hey, how you doing?
Javeayah Harris was 4 years old. She lived on Hillsborough Street in Aiken County, South Carolina, in a modest house with her mother, Michilae, and her father, Johmarea Harris, both in their early 20s. People who knew her described a little girl full of energy, one who loved the color pink and anything Minnie Mouse. Her hair was braided, decorated with small pink beads. She was talkative for her age. Neighbors and family friends said she could carry a full conversation, that she had a sharpness to her that surprised adults. Her father would later describe her as unusually trusting. He said she didn't understand the concept of a stranger, that she greeted almost everyone the same way, with a polite, "Yes, ma'am," or "No, sir." He called her respectful, well-raised, the kind of child who listened when adults spoke. Behind that description, though, was a household under strain. Public records show both parents had been named in eviction filings in the years before that summer, one in 2023, another as recent as December of 2025. It was an ordinary, working-class family, on paper. The kind of household you'd drive past without a second thought. Michilae worked for Transcom, a customer service company, earning around $1,300 every 2 weeks. Johmarea Harris worked for DHL. Neither had significant savings. Neither had extra room for emergencies. And in the months leading up to that summer, according to family members who later spoke with local reporters, there had allegedly been previous contact with Child Protective Services regarding the household. That claim has not been confirmed by the sheriff's office or through court documents, so we want to be upfront that it remains unverified. But it's part of what community members were saying once the full story began to surface. Public records also show the family had moved between properties in the years before, first tied to Union County, later to Aiken. Court filings tell part of that story on their own. Herring had been named in an eviction case filed by a housing authority in Union County in December of 2025, a case that ended with a formal ejectment order the following month. Harris had faced a similar filing years earlier, in 2023, eventually settled. None of it is unusual on its own. Families move, families struggle financially, but laid end to end, it paints a picture of a household constantly under pressure, shifting from place to place, never quite finding stability. By the early summer of 2026, Michilae was 39 weeks pregnant with her second child. Javeayah, meanwhile, was approaching a milestone of her own. She would have turned 5 soon. Sometime in early June, according to investigators, something happened inside that house. Something that was never reported. Something no one outside those 4 walls knew about. For weeks. On the evening of June 30th, Michilae Herring called 911. She told the dispatcher her daughter had been playing outside near a chicken coop on the property while she was inside the house, cooking dinner and running bathwater. When she stepped back outside to bring Javeayah in for the night, she said, "The girl was gone." The dispatcher walked her through the standard questions. How long had Javeayah been outside on her own? Had she seen any unfamiliar vehicles near the property? Was there anyone else who might have been with her? Herring answered calmly. Almost too calmly, some would later say. She mentioned she was 39 weeks pregnant and that it made it harder to keep up with her daughter the way she normally would. She also told the dispatcher that Javeayah showed signs consistent with autism, though she admitted no formal diagnosis had ever been made. On its surface, it sounded like any parent's worst nightmare. A child, gone in the space of a few unsupervised minutes. Within hours, it became something the entire county couldn't look away from. Word spread overnight. By the next morning, July 1st, the Aiken County Sheriff's Office had escalated the case far beyond a routine search. The FBI joined the investigation. So did the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division and the South Carolina Highway Patrol. More than 200 first responders were eventually pulled into the effort. Drones scanned the tree lines. K-9 units worked the fields. A helicopter circled overhead for hours at a time. That week, temperatures climbed close to 100 degrees, and the heat only sharpened the fear driving every single searcher, that a small child could be out there somewhere, exposed, running out of time in the summer sun. Thousands of acres were combed by hand. Neighbors who had never met the Harris family before that week showed up anyway, walking ditches, checking sheds, calling her name into the woods for hours. Local churches organized supply stations along the search perimeter. Bethel Baptist Church became one of several gathering points where volunteers checked in, grabbed water, and coordinated which areas still needed to be covered. Even local business owners contributed. One restaurant owner in Aiken personally prepared and delivered dozens of meals to search crews working through the July heat, wanting to make sure the volunteers combing the woods for hours at a stretch had something to eat. For 4 days, that was the rhythm of Aiken County. Search at dawn, regroup at midday to escape the worst of the heat, search again into the evening, until the light gave out and drones took over, scanning with thermal cameras through the dark. Search coordinators kept detailed maps, crossing off grid sections as teams cleared them, expanding the radius outward each day the search continued without results. But almost immediately, cracks started to show. Members of the public began asking why an Amber Alert hadn't been issued for a missing 4-year-old. It's usually one of the fastest tools law enforcement has. The Aiken County Sheriff's Office responded publicly on July 2nd, explaining that the case simply didn't meet the state's criteria for an alert, and that flooding the search with untrained volunteers carried its own risk. The chance that someone could miss a critical clue, disturb evidence, or put themselves in danger. Meanwhile, in interviews with local news, Johmarea Harris insisted his daughter wasn't the type to wander off on her own. "She does not run away," he said, adding that she was too friendly, too trusting, to just disappear into the woods by herself. He told reporters he and Herring had no idea what could have happened to her. At one point, he even mentioned he'd given detectives information about people supposedly seen snooping around the house in the days prior, though nothing about that lead was ever substantiated publicly. Some neighbors, quietly, remembered something different. They told reporters they rarely saw Javeayah playing outside at all, a detail that meant little on its own, until it didn't. By Friday, July 3rd, 3 days into an unprecedented search effort, the sheriff's office announced that visible search operations would begin scaling back. No detailed explanation was given at the time. To most of the public, it looked like the trail had simply gone cold, like hope was quietly being packed away along with the equipment. They had no idea what was actually happening behind the scenes. The very next morning, Saturday, July 4th, Sheriff Marty Sawyer stood in front of a room full of cameras to deliver the update the entire county had been dreading without knowing it. He told the community that new evidence had led investigators to believe Javeayah Harris was no longer alive, and that she likely hadn't been alive for some time. "It's the outcome that we all feared," he said, "and sadly, it is now what we must face." Then came the detail that reframed everything the town had spent 4 days doing. Investigators believed Javeayah had already been dead for roughly a month before her mother ever dialed 911. If you're only now catching up with this case, make sure you're subscribed to the Crime Edition, because what happens next is where this story turns from tragic to almost unbelievable. That same day, both parents were taken into custody. Johmarea Harris and Michilae were each charged with homicide by child abuse, a charge that carries a sentence of 20 years to life in prison. Herring was hit with an additional charge, filing a false police report. The arrest warrants, unsealed days later, laid out allegations far darker than the community had braced for. According to those documents, both parents caused their daughter's death under circumstances manifesting an extreme indifference to human life. The warrants state that Javeayah had suffered an injury, and that neither parent sought medical attention for her afterward. Investigators placed the window of her death between May 1st and June 15th, weeks, possibly a full month, before that 911 call was ever made. The false report charge against Herring detailed something even harder to sit with. According to the warrant, she reported her own daughter missing on June 30th, while already knowing Javeayah was dead, and already knowing where the child's body had been taken. She had, according to investigators, admitted to disposing of it herself. Think about what that means. For nearly a month, Michilae went about her days. She interacted with neighbors. She prepared for the birth of her second child. And the entire time she carried a secret that would eventually bring an entire county's law enforcement network down on her front lawn. It's worth pausing on the specific legal language used in these warrants, because it matters. Extreme indifference to human life is not a phrase prosecutors use lightly. Under South Carolina law, homicide by child abuse doesn't require proof that a parent intended to kill their child. It requires proof that their actions, or their failure to act, showed such a severe disregard for the child's life that death became the direct result. In other words, prosecutors don't need to prove either parent set out that day to end Javeayah's life. They only need to prove that once she was injured, neither of them did anything to save her, and that the decision not to act cost her everything. A former prosecutor who reviewed the case for a South Carolina news outlet noted that this distinction is exactly why both parents were charged identically for the underlying homicide, regardless of who caused the initial injury. In cases like this, inaction can carry the same legal weight as the act itself. With the case now officially a homicide investigation, the search shifted in both direction and purpose. Investigators redirected their focus roughly 80 miles northeast of Aiken, into Fairfield County, toward an area near Cedar Creek Reservoir, known locally as Stumpy Pond, for the dense cluster of dead trees and stumps beneath its surface. It's a spot popular with fishermen, and notoriously difficult to search, tangled, murky, hard to navigate even for experienced dive teams. Multiple agencies converged there. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division brought in a dive team. The Department of Natural Resources deployed boats and a K-9 unit. A SLED helicopter made repeated passes overhead. Its flight pattern later tracked publicly online. For several days, crews worked that water inch by inch. Access to the area was tightly controlled. Law enforcement blocked the road leading to Javeayah Creek, allowing only official vehicles through. Family members were spotted near the search zone as well, watching from a distance as boats moved slowly across the water and drone teams launched from the shoreline. The Fairfield County Sheriff's Office confirmed they were playing a supporting role only, securing the scene, while Aiken County and SLED led the actual search. It was slow, methodical work. Stumpy Pond earned its name honestly, its surface broken by dozens of dead trees and submerged stumps that made both diving and boat navigation genuinely hazardous. Reporters covering the story from the perimeter noted a steady stream of vehicles coming and going throughout each day, but almost no information leaving the scene. Investigators declined to confirm publicly what exactly they were searching for, even as speculation mounted that this location was somehow connected to where Javeayah's remains had been taken. At the same time, investigators returned to the family's home on Hillsborough Street. On the evening of Tuesday, July 7th, crime scene tape went back up. The Aiken County Coroner's Office was present alongside sheriff's deputies. Crews searched the wooded area directly behind the house, sifting the ground methodically, marking evidence with small yellow numbered tags. They spent close to 4 hours on the property that night, Chief Deputy Eric Abdullah, when asked what investigators had found, would only say the investigation was ongoing and that not every detail could be released publicly. 2 days later, on July 9th, Sheriff Sawyer held another press conference, and this one carried a different weight than the others. He confirmed that human remains had been recovered from the reservoir in Fairfield County, and that DNA testing showed they were consistent with the biological offspring of Michilae Herring and Johmarea Harris. He told the public that evidence, combined with statements from both parents, showed extensive and deliberate efforts had been made to destroy and conceal what happened to Javeayah after her death. Because of those efforts, he said, it was unlikely her remains would ever be fully recovered. We had all hoped and prayed to find her, Sawyer said, but with the information we've uncovered, that's simply not possible. New charges followed immediately. Both parents were charged with destruction and desecration of human remains, stacked on top of the homicide charges already filed against them. Sawyer, a law enforcement veteran with nearly 4 decades on the job, said on record that in all his years in this line of work, he had never encountered anything as difficult as this case. He added that there were words he wanted to use to describe the parents' actions that he chose not to say publicly, only that he would no longer refer to them as mom and dad. In his words, they hadn't earned that title. A day before that press conference, both parents had already stood in front of a judge. Separate bond hearings were held on Sunday, July 5th, before Magistrate Judge Ronald Thornton. Neither parent had an attorney present in the courtroom. During Michilae Herring's hearing, the judge worked through the standard financial questions used to determine eligibility for a court-appointed lawyer. She confirmed she was employed at Transcom, earning roughly $1,300 every 2 weeks. When asked who else lived in her household, she answered, simply, the father. Thornton ruled that her income placed her above the threshold for public defense. Because of the false report charge tied directly to the homicide case, he denied her bond outright. Johmarea Harris's hearing followed that same afternoon. He told the judge he worked for DHL, though he visibly struggled to answer basic questions about his weekly income. He too was found ineligible for a court-appointed attorney. Because the homicide charge carried a potential sentence of 20 years to life, Thornton explained he didn't have the legal authority to set bond at all in a case of that severity. That decision, he said, would fall to a circuit court judge, expected to rule within 30 days. Both parents now have a first court appearance scheduled for September 18th at the Aiken County Judicial Center. As of this recording, no bond has been granted to either of them, and no trial date has been set. Here's the detail that stops most people cold, the one that gives this case its name. The same night Michilae Herring picked up the phone and reported her daughter missing, she went into labor. While search crews spent that night walking fields and tree lines under drone light, looking for a 4-year-old girl her mother already knew was gone, Herring was in a hospital bed, giving birth to her second daughter. A newborn sister Javeayah would never meet. Born the same night, into the same unraveling family. Just hours after her mother reported the first child missing to police. That baby is now, according to a family friend, in the custody of her paternal grandmother. She was born into a house already collapsing under a secret, on the exact night the search for her sister began, a search that, by then, had already been running for a month without anyone realizing it. In the days that followed the arrests, Aiken held on to Javeayah the only way a community can. Vigils were organized across the region. One was held in Aiken itself, at a site local residents began calling the Alley, where mourners gathered with candles the same night bond was denied to both parents. Another vigil followed roughly a week later in Columbia, at Finley Park, where attendees were asked to bring flowers or bubbles instead of balloons, and where a moment of silence was held in her memory. Pink became the color of this case, first as the shade she was last seen wearing, then as the color the entire search adopted, and eventually as the color of mourning. Deputies reportedly wore pink ties and ribbons during one of the sheriff's press conferences, a quiet tribute to a little girl who loved Minnie Mouse and the beads in her hair. What started as a single stuffed animal left near the family's mailbox grew, over days, into a full memorial. Stuffed toys, candles, handwritten notes, almost all of it pink. Local residents spoke about the toll the case took on the community. One woman, Hasina Span, said she couldn't recall a situation that had shaken Aiken quite like this one. Another resident, Maria Toole, said the case had genuinely broken her. Her 8-year-old daughter, Allie, came to the memorial with balloons of her own, saying simply that she believed Javeayah deserved better, and that when her body is eventually found, the memorial items should be moved to her grave. Another mourner, Donna Chavis, described the collective grief of the mothers in the community, saying she cried for a child she had never even met, simply because of how deeply the case affected everyone who heard about it. Advocates who work with local child welfare organizations also used the moment to speak publicly, pointing out that child abuse cases have been rising across South Carolina in recent years, and urging residents to take early warning signs seriously rather than waiting until it's too late. The sheriff's office, for its part, set up a formal channel for the public to submit any video, photographs, or documents that might be connected to the case, an unusual step that reflected just how large this investigation had grown. Officials also had to issue a separate public warning, urging residents not to donate to any fundraiser claiming to support the family unless it had been officially verified, after concerns emerged about people trying to exploit the tragedy for personal gain. A petition has also begun circulating in the wake of this case, calling for new legislation informally known as Javeayah's Law, aimed at closing gaps in how suspected child abuse and neglect are reported, tracked, and acted on before it's too late. Whether that legislation goes anywhere remains to be seen, but it's already become part of how this community is choosing to respond. As it stands today, Javeayah Harris has not been fully recovered. Investigators have said plainly that it's unlikely they ever will be. No official cause of death has been released to the public, and no motive has been given for why any of this happened in the first place. Both parents remain held without bond, awaiting a circuit court ruling that could come at any time, with their first formal court appearance still weeks away. A search that began with 200 volunteers holding on to hope ended with a discovery that no one in Aiken County will ever forget, and a case that is, as of this recording, still far from over. What makes this case so difficult to sit with isn't just what allegedly happened inside that house. It's the month that followed. The version of Michilae Herring the public saw during that search, worried, pregnant, cooperative with investigators, was constructed entirely on top of a truth she alone controlled. Every volunteer who walked those woods, every officer who flew a drone over that property, every neighbor who brought flowers to a doorstep, was operating inside a story that had already ended weeks earlier, one only she and Javeayah Harris knew the real shape of. And that's often the hardest part of cases like this one for investigators, and for the public trying to make sense of them from the outside. It's not the discovery itself, it's the realization of how long a lie can hold, how convincingly grief and fear can be performed, and how much distance can exist between what a community believes it's looking for and what actually happened long before anyone started looking at all. If you've been following this case, we want to know what you think. Do you believe both parents share equal responsibility for what happened, or do you think one of them carried more of the blame than the other? Let us know in the comments below. That's the case of Javeayah Harris. If this story moved you, subscribe to the Crime Edition, hit the like button, and tell us where you're watching from. We'll bring you the next update the moment this case moves forward.